All right, welcome in. We are live. Man, yet again, Lester, we just keep doing this thing. How do we keep this streak up?
We're here. We're here
We're
every
here.
day after, We're undefeated in our record here, I guess you'd have to say.
Yeah, our streak continues.
Yeah.
Uh I don't know how to introduce this properly, but one of our guys, Axel, who's one of our supporters, he's in the comments a lot, but it's late there, right? Like so he's on the other side of the world. He sent me some schnapps. It's not spelled how I would spell it. It's spelled like snaps, but he sent me some schnapps.
Like schnapps, like peach schnapps, root beer
But
schnapps?
no. Like more like I think that would be insulting to him. This
Probably,
is more
yeah.
like traditional
Okay.
um Swedish schnapps.
Nice.
And he sent this, and then when we were in Chicago not that long ago, I had bought this Icelandic schnapps, which has birch tree. It's like birch bark flavored schnapps, right? And I remember, and we thought it was cool because my last name translates to birch tree in like that part of the world. So anyway, that's why we bought it.
Is it a
Haven't had,
Swedish name? Burke, is that a Swedish thing?
I think it actually does have some Scandinavian roots, but my people in my family would disagree. But I think that's where it goes back to. Anyway, that's I think it's probably lost some cool, dot things over the letters at some point. Anyway, so he sent me this. The reason why he sent me this was because we talked about Malort on the show.
Yeah.
And they have a version of Malort that is traditional, like basically what Malort comes from. And he says it's good. And he had this long thing. He talks about how they sing before they take a shot of it. I'm not doing that. Like we want people to watch this show. We don't want to turn them off. So none of that. But he says you're supposed to keep it ice cold. So I kept it in the freezer. So this is ice cold. It's about halfway gone because I'm going to shoot half of it, and then the other half I used in a cocktail. So I told him I would drink it on here. So I don't know if this is punishment for having to cover this team or what it is. It is definitely not a celebration. So again, this is like supposed to be like Malort, which everybody says is like the worst thing ever to shoot. But he was pretty. I don't want to say that he was talking it up because
what does it smell like? You got to let us know what it smells like.
Actually just kind of a little sweet botanical.
Okay.
Let's go. It almost has like a bubblegum scent to it.
Oh man.
Smells nice.
Okay.
Smells nice. All right.
So nothing like Malort.
Okay, so a little bitter on the back end, which you'd expect from Malort, but it's not bad.
Okay.
It's not that bad.
Nice.
Oh, there's the rest of it. All right. So what I did was I am a cocktail enthusiast. So I created a cocktail for it. So
this takes you back to your beer's roots right here.
A little bit. We're gonna bridge the gap here.
Okay.
So I'm calling this so anyway, it's not Malort, it's called Besk. B-E-S-K. So I should have set that up. They call it Besk. So I'm going to call this the Besk is yet to come because we need a little hope here. So lemon juice, all equal parts. Lemon juice, Besk, yellow chartreuse, which is very difficult to find, but if you can find it, and gin.
Okay.
So, and that's a better way to consume Besk. That's pretty good.
Better.
Okay. All right.
For those interested, this is just water, ice water.
Oh, really? Tap or out of a bottle?
It's filtered, but it's not out of a bottle.
Okay. Anyway, I think it. So I have never made a cocktail with Malort, but I would imagine that there is a way to use it that's better than taking a shot of it. This was not a terrible shot. Again, this is not something I would want to do very often, but the cocktail's fine. Okay.
That's good.
There you go. Cocktails with JB. This is what we should really convert to this. This is
the way the Bears are, we may as well, right? I mean, it's man, it's just like I kind of feel envious of our Bears or Beers crew because they actually every week get to come on and, depending on what percentage alcohol they're working with, by the time the show's over, some of the pain may be gone.
Maybe, maybe. And it looks like Axel did stay up. Uh, and there we go. So thank you, Axel. I appreciate it. It was fun. I'll let you know how the other 4 go. We'll try to figure something out for those. But all right. Well, that was fun. You want to get into a podcast?
Let's get into the
No, I
show.
do. I haven't done the drinking and podcasting in a while. So we'll see if this, I have never brought that onto this show.
What's
So
the percentage of that, Besk?
like a typical, well, it's 38%. So
Okay.
it's, normal alcohol by, it's more 40%. So right around that normal.
I'm sure you'll be fine. I, though, am a lightweight. If I would have that, and I would be catching a buzz relatively quick off that. So one of these days I'll have to do it just for the laughs.
But you're you're a big guy.
I am a big guy. I'm a
So
lightweight. I rarely drink. Yeah.
So, but did they give you more like anesthetic stuff when you go under a surgery?
I would
You don't know?
assume,
Yeah,
I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, I would assume they have to.
right. And then, but maybe you're just such a lightweight that you're just knocked out for way too long. Anyway,
That's possible. Yeah.
I mean, there's this story about Andre the Giant, and they asked him how much he drinks to get buzzed, and it was like he had to drink like a handle.
Yeah.
And so that's how they like figured out how much anesthetic to give him. Anyway,
I'm not
all right, this has gone off the rails, just like the Bears season.
just like the Bears. Yeah.
Let's record a podcast.
Let's do it.
Welcome to Bear and Balanced. I'm Jeff Burkus. On the other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Bears continue to go streaking. This time, a loss up in Minnesota. How did you take the game?
That was awful. This is what is this? The Ryan Poles' regime now has the 2 longest losing streaks in Bears history under his 3-year watch here. So again, I wasn't expecting to win. Going into the game, again, I thought they would play a little better, and man, that's just who this team is. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into more in the show, but they fooled everybody. I mean, it's not just Bears fans. A lot of Bears fans want to like come out and say, "Oh, you guys said this." That's not just Bears fans. National pundits, local pundits, all the national shows. Preseason, the Bears were a sneaky playoff pick. In the NFC, we figured, 9 wins, 10 wins. We figured that'd be in the mix. They fooled everyone. It's not all Flus. A lot of it was Flus, but not now. The players have Flus gone, and we're seeing the players aren't able to kind of bounce back for 2 weeks. And it's just is this team headed for another rebuild? I mean, that's my fear here.
Yeah, I think we can get into it a little bit, but I think there's a lot of interesting reactions to what has happened here because there's this assumption of, well, anybody's going to be better, so just get rid of them, right? And I think when you fire Flus, the best coordinator on the team was also fired in that moment, right? So Matty Flus does know how to call his defense. Eric Washington does not. Very clearly, he does not, right? And so you are going to downgrade that. I think that should have been relatively obvious that they were going to lose something there. Now, maybe the players were going to bounce back, and maybe there's going to be more of a wash. But I mean, they're playing soft zone stuff on 3rd down, allowing easy first down. I mean, that stuff hasn't changed, right? And in some ways, it's gotten worse here in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And then, well, the guy that interviewed for the offensive coordinator job, but that got hired as the passing game coordinator, he's now the head coach, right? Like, so this idea, like, well, anybody's going to be better. The thing's broken, man. And for me, it was the right decision to fire Flus. You had to get him out of there. The worst thing that could happen was some random bounces at the end of the year that made George feel like, run it back one more time, like just keep it going, right? So the fact that you backed up your players, you ripped off the Band-Aid and you said, nope, we're getting rid of him. We can't tolerate that. This is the right thing. But once that moment happened, the season really changed. And it changed from, we're in a state of transition. Maybe Thomas Brown is a guy, we like him. We're going to give him this audition because we would want to interview him at the end of the year. regardless. So why not get this data point? And I think that that's a very uncomfortable thing for a lot of fans because they still want to watch these games and cheer for their team. They
Yeah.
still want to see wins, and they're not seeing any sort of bounce like they may have expected.
Zero bounce. Yeah, I mean, I talked last week. I thought maybe that last week was just the team was spent, just drained. Just that's a rough couple months there after the fail Mary. So, they finally get what they want, but now they're going to bounce back this week. And no, it's not happening. It's just, how bad is this roster overall? I know, like I said, we all thought it wasn't just us. It wasn't just a couple guys in Bears media. It was nationwide. Everyone expected this Bears team to be pretty good this year. No one was calling for a title. No one was calling for the NFC North, that polls would take the North this year finally. No one thought that was happening, but we all thought they'd be in the mix for a playoff spot. Just didn't happen. Now, look, we can hindsight the hell out of this and go back and say, well, they should have fired Flus at the beginning of the year. That may have changed the trajectory of the franchise, but that didn't happen. We thought they'd have enough talent to work through it. I thought the Waldron hire was good. I thought it was going to work out. Again, hindsight is like, man, that was a mess held together by Pete Carroll in Seattle. Just everything that can go wrong will go wrong. At some point, it's got to change.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get into some of that here, but let's start off with our categories because I think we can work in a lot of this conversation and narrative. So we always start in the trenches with our trench tribute. And honestly, Lester, I did not feel like there were a lot of options. Now, again, we keep getting these blowouts, and it becomes hard to do these categories. But I just thought that there were some issues up and down the lines. So, did you find any bright spots?
I found a couple.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, not too bad.
Okay, so if you have a couple, let me go first.
Okay.
I only wrote down one name. Normally, I try to write down two in case you take one. I have Jonathan Ford.
Yeah.
Because he was signed off of the practice squad of the Green Bay Packers, and he looked like, and he was wearing a guard number playing defensive line. 60s should be just guards. Like I don't know why. Like that's what I associate guards with. Was he 64?
I think so. Yeah.
That's a guard number.
Look,
right?
He looked out of place because we're not used to seeing the big guy out there.
Right. So he's playing defensive tackle, and he had a couple tackles, and he seemed to be competent, which is what they have missed in this run defense lately. So for me, it's kind of a backward, it's kind of a slap in the face, a little bit of a compliment that's more of an insult to this defense. But I'm giving it to Jonathan Ford.
Jonathan Ford's a good pick. That's one of the guys I had written down. I mean, I bet most Bears fans watching the game, when they saw him out there, had no idea who he was. Signed off the Packers practice squad, earlier in the week. Big bodied, nose tackle type, 330, I think he's listed as. So, what does it say though about Ryan Poles' depth? That the best,
this is what I'm saying.
The best guy that he's got here is a scrap heap guy from the Packers that he had to go poach off their practice squad. Where's Zach Pickens? Where's Brian Cowart? Where are some of these guys that the Bears have? Where now here's this guy that the Bears just picked up. And again, he didn't have a great game by any means, but he played decent enough where we're like, wow, who's that guy? What the hell's going on? It's just rough. I mean, yeah, look, the Bears are down Dexter. He was missing the game. Of course, they're down Billings. You need some bodies up front, but someone's got to produce. So it's nice to see Ford kind of step in and show something.
I can't get over 64 as a defensive tackle. Like that's like a preseason game, right? Where they're just like every jersey, they're just handing them out. There's an offensive 64 and a defensive 64 in the preseason, right? Like there's just, it's like, it's one of those numbers that, you're sharing a number. You're probably not going to keep it, or you're not going to be on the team. I couldn't get over that, but it's the only name that really stood out. You said you had a couple names. Who was the other one?
The other one I had DeMarcus Walker. I mean, he was getting a lot of love from the broadcast team. He was making some pressure. He actually ended up with the game with I think he just had one tackle, but he had 4 quarterback hits. So he was in the backfield quite a bit. The 4 quarterback hits he had was actually tied his career high. His career high he set was 4. He got in week 1 this year against the Titans. So Walker was active. It was good to kind of see him out there. He didn't get home. Like I said, he only had the 4 quarterback hits, but he was doing enough to be disruptive to where you figured that the Vikes had to at least pay attention to him, coming off that line.
Yeah, he just didn't stand out enough to me, but
Not enough.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough, and the offensive line was rough, so I don't think you can really have too much there. And we keep going to the well with Darnell Wright. Maybe we'll mention him later in the show, but you can't mention him every episode in this segment. So
like if we did mention him though, Bears fans would be up in arms because he gave up the sack. So that would be like, how dare you pick a guy that had one bad play?
It's true. It's true. He sure did. Sure did. And everybody, if you're not holding a pitchfork and a torch anytime you speak about the Bears right now, then you're going to get shouted down. Like, don't you dare put anything else out into the ether, because it just needs to be vitriol and bile. That's the only thing that can really be put out there right now. People are angry. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
If you think they'd be used to this by now. Let's get into Twitter. Sweet tweets. I've got a long one from our friend Bill Zimmerman at Bill T Zimmerman on Twitter. Bill's just been kind of on fire lately.
Yeah.
He's just been bringing just been bringing it lately. So he says, Kieran Amagaji needed a red shirt year, something you and I have said. I said it when he was drafted. I am not some brilliant draft analyst, but if I saw it, Ryan Poles should have 2, meaning either Ryan Poles didn't see it and was comfortable with playing him this year as a swing tackle once he was healthy. And, again, we've talked about that. Or he knew it and had no better plan at swing tackle than Larry Borom. And we saw Larry Borom last week, and obviously Larry Borom looked disinterested. And Bill continues, Larry Borom, who has played so poorly that the coaching staff went with the rookie over him. Either way, this is a Poles miss even before evaluating Amagaji's performance on the field. All right, let's start at the top. 1, when Kieran Amagaji was drafted in the 3rd round of the draft this year, we talked about it and we said, this guy's injured. He's from Yale. There's absolutely no reason why anybody should talk about this guy of getting on the field. There's just zero chance of it. This is a pick for 2025. He's going to compete with Braxton Jones for snaps, and maybe he's the Braxton Jones replacement. That to me felt like a bit of a luxury, but that was how I interpreted the pick at the time. What were your impressions of the pick when that was made?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, honestly, when the pick happened, I hadn't really heard of him much. I knew a little bit from doing all the draft sims, but wasn't a guy I knew a lot about. So I actually did the post-draft pick show with Jacob. So I had Jacob Infante on. I had to learn how to pronounce his name right away. So I had Jacob on.
I sent you the pronunciation.
You did. We did the show with Jacob, and I talked to Jacob, and Jacob was of the same vein. It's like, look, this is a project. Nice. He called toolsy. That's the big thing. Nice long arms. Pretty quick feet. But again, played at Yale, so the competition is not the best. Coming off an injury that took away most of his last year at Yale. There, he came into camp injured. He didn't get going until, I think about 4 or 5 games into the season, he's finally able to get some practice in. So should have been a red shirt. And look, we see teams do these all the time. They'll draft guys that they know is going to need some work. We've seen it in the Bears in the past. They've had guys, just they kept them on the roster. They never played them. They just kept them on the active roster because they knew that the tools were there, the skills were there. For the prospect eventually to be a contributor. But as a rookie, you don't want to expose him to the waiver wire. You don't want to take a chance putting him on the practice squad. He's your guy for the future. And they're forced to play him here. Borom, look, I've never been a big fan of Borom. I thought his rookie year, he had a couple nice moments, but it was nothing more than I thought would be like, he's just a guy, nice depth piece. Maybe they can get him some guard work, but he doesn't have the quick feet. He was drafted for another regime, different scheme at the time. So I was surprised he's even on this roster, especially with the big pay bump he got, through the
escalation clause.
Escalation. Yeah. So I was surprised they kept him, but like you said, Poles didn't have a better option, and I found interesting that when Brad Biggs kind of broke it that, hey, expect Amagaji to get the start, they considered between Amagaji or Jake Curran, who
Right.
recently was brought up from the practice squad. I didn't even mention Larry Borum.
Right.
So Borum has fallen so far out of favor that the option came down between Jay Curran, who is not a very good left tackle,
Not a good
or
football.
Karan Hamagaji, who is a rookie left tackle. And his game was bad, but I expected it to be bad. And that's, again, that falls on Poles.
Okay, so that's the first thing is here's the expectation, at least how we interpret it. Now, if Ryan Poles thought otherwise, he thought, no, you guys can get this guy up to speed. We're going to count on him, at some point in the year to be an active roster guy who we're going to work in if somebody's hurt, right? That to me is a crazy, crazy interpretation of events by Ryan Poles. If that's what he thought. The Borum stuff's unfortunate because even if Larry Borum isn't a guy that's in the future, you are paying him that escalation. You didn't cut him, which you certainly could have done. And you have to count on him to be a professional, right? And he just seemed disinterested and did not play with any sort of, at any sort of professional level when he's had that opportunity lately, right? You also had that with Nate Davis, where Nate Davis was completely disinterested in playing professional football, and you were counting on him to fill one of those spots. And so now you have two offensive linemen that you have one cut and two now just benched and don't want to see the field that you had in your either your starting lineup or as your swing tackle to begin the year. So now you have to start elevating people. I saw someone say, well, he's next man up, like he was a third round pick. Stop. Please don't say that he was at any point should have been part of these plans. If Ryan Poles thought he was, then F Ryan Poles, because that is the dumbest thing. That is as dumb as him trading for Chase Claypool when there was, a fair amount of knowledge about Chase Claypool being who he was, right? Like that should be as damning on Ryan Poles as anything that he's done, if that's what he thought. Now, I have no idea, and I don't know if we can do this or if he just kind of got caught in a corner. I thought they just should have given him an IR. Like he started off on the pup. They just should have been like, we are using this to just put you on the injured reserve list for the whole year. You're in the building with us. You can come to practices, you can work out, learn mental reps, but like we're not even going to take the chance that we're going to be tempted to put you in a football game. Like that's what I would have done. That's what I would have liked to have seen them do. But they kept burning the roster spot. I was like, okay, well, he's not active, but like still, like, what are we doing? And they just kind of kept him around. And now you get to this point where you got to use him. And I've fully expected the performance that we did when he was in isolation. So this brings me to my next point is that people are like, oh, he's terrible. He's not ready. I'm not saying he's ever going to be anything, but stop judging. He shouldn't be judged this. There's no parallel universe that we should see Karan Amagaji on a football field this year. It just should not have happened. And the fact that it did, and he looked that bad is like, no shit. Of course he was that bad. But this gets me to my next point, Lester. Why aren't you helping him?
Yeah.
Why wasn't the entire offensive scheme like go back to Braxton Jones's rookie year? And they say, hey, we're going to start Braxton Jones. He's a 5th round rookie tackle, and we're going to start him at left tackle. And this is our guy. We're going to do that. Go back and watch what they asked Braxton Jones to do. Very low degree of difficulty stuff. They didn't run to his side very often. They rolled the pocket away from him. Half of his snaps were easy assignments. Like if he got beat, it didn't matter because the guy was chasing the play and Justin Fields was running away from him. The defensive end's never going to catch him if he wins that rep, right? Half of Braxton Jones's reps his rookie year were of low difficulty. I expected there to be some recognition that is what you have in Karan Amagaji to put him out at left tackle as a rookie recovering from an injury. And the last time he played was, I don't know, against Colgate. Like who is he even playing? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not up on Yale's football tape, but it can't be that good. Those guys are probably in law school right now. Like, what are we talking about? How is that your approach, is to just leave him on an island? That strip sack,
Brutal.
Everybody could have predicted that. Like 80% of the stadium thought, well, this looks like this guy could get a sack. Like it is the least surprising thing that's happened, and that is, it is not Amagaji's fault. It is this coaching staff. So it's on Ryan Poles for managing his roster this way. It is absolutely on Thomas Brown and Chris Morgan and whatever else anybody else had anything to do with this game plan and putting him in a position to fail.
What bothered me more, I watched the game today, and there were a few reps where I'm like, okay, that's a nice rep from him. And the run game had a nice rep. You know, there was a few times in the pass game, but his pass sets were not getting deep enough. His feet were all over the place. I don't know. I mean, look, he's been in the building now long enough to know how to execute a kick step, how to get a little depth. He had his angle on a lot of his steps were either poor angles or you're stepping with the wrong foot. It's like, dude, you've been playing left tackle, for a while now. The footwork should be, second nature to a point. What is Chris Morgan doing here? Again, we're going back to the O-line coach. It's just, I just don't understand. I'm with you. I don't think he should have been a guy that should have been out there, but that's where this team is because of the problems they've had and the other failings.
Just to wrap it up and bring it home, he had 4 penalties. I think 3 of them were accepted. One of them was on a run play at the goal line, which backed him up and cost them points. He had a hold on a pass play. He was called for illegal man downfield, which was declined, and he had a false start.
Yeah.
He gave up at least 5 pressures to Grenard, and I don't know if he gave up any more than that, but at least 5 that I counted in my quick rewatch when I was kind of focusing on Grenard because it's such a mismatch. He gave up the strip sack, and he lost his helmet.
That was weird.
Buckle up, young man. Buckle that chin strap up. I don't know how you lose your helmet. So, I mean, that's as bad as a debut as you could ever have as an offensive lineman.
Did you catch his interview that he did on one of the local channels before the game?
Before the game?
Before the game.
Was that the not gonna touch him?
Yeah, it's never a good look when these things happen. But look, these guys are professionals. They're all confident. They're all gonna say something brash like that. It's unfortunate that he would think to say it. I mean, he could have kind of took a different route there, but yeah. So that clip's been getting a lot of play on social media because said he wasn't gonna let Caleb get touched. Then
clowning yourself.
You got obliterated. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. What do you got?
So mine is from Lauren Cox, who's at Cox Sports 1. He tweeted out, since Thomas Brown took over as offensive play caller week 11, Caleb Williams had the lowest rate of play action of any starting quarterback in the NFL at just 12.4%. What the, why? He actually followed up, Lauren did. For comparison, Ben Johnson has Jared Goff running play action at 34.1% rate, the second highest of any quarterback over that span, behind only Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur, Ben Johnson, elite play callers. And I know the first thing Bears fans are saying, you can't run a play action if you can't run the ball. Yes, you can. It's been proven.
Yes, the math backs
time again. It doesn't matter. You could be the shittiest running team in the world. Play action is effective. It's about the look you're giving the defense, the look you're giving the linebackers and the defensive backs. And look, the Bears were okay in running the ball. Swift was okay. Wasn't the best. He had over 4 yards per average running it. Where's the play action? I want more play action.
All right. So I have an alternate theory. I died like 10 years ago. I'm actually dead. Whoa. And I am now just, this is actually the bad place. And I'm living my personal hell and covering this team because I have talked about play action so much.
Yeah.
And then you just mentioned that the highest rates of play action are on the division rivals.
Yeah.
I just can't even, like Bill said in his tweet, he's not some draft Nick expert, right? Like, I'm not an X's and O's guru, right? I'm not one of these guys that's putting out, hour-long videos breaking down X's and O's. But if I can tell that you're not running enough play action and you're not marrying your run and pass game, you can bet that defensive coordinators that are facing you sure know that.
Yeah.
So it's not enough. And I don't, Lester, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. Is somebody, a coach signs in Chicago, is George McCaskey saying that he hates play action and just don't put it in the game plan? Does Virginia not like it? Like, who's preventing this from happening in Navy and Orange?
What I think happened was George hired a consultant, and the consultant probably talked him through some schematic changes you want to see with the Bears, and this is what he came up with was limit play action. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just maddening because as long as we've been doing this show, we have been a pro play action podcast. Like you got to do it. I don't care if you're running the I formation and you're pounding the rock. Play action works. Study after study after study. It's been proven. It does not matter whether you're effective at running the ball. If you're smart with your play action, if you're giving a good look to the defense, that's what matters. And the Bears are doing it 12.4% of the time, the lowest rate of any quarterback in the league since Thomas Brown took over. And Thomas Brown is from the McVay school. He's from the Shanahan school. He should know better to do this. It's just maddening.
I'm stunned by how bad. We'll get into it. I've got it down the line. All right. Well, we're going to move on. Caleb's corner. Caleb Williams, 18 of 31 for 191 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Only took 2 sacks, 25-yard loss. Ran the ball, I guess, 4 times for 3 yards. I don't know that's really. It wasn't very effective as a scrambler in this one, and then had the fumble loss from the strip sack. So overall, Caleb's day had some drops. I would say at least 4 of those 13 completions were just drops. 3 of them, Keenan Allen, 3 drops. Rome had the drop in the end zone. These guys are very well thought of wide receivers. You got to come down with those. At least DJ Moore caught all of his targets and, was helping him out there. So, a little bit from that, but overall, I don't know that you could call this like a terrible day, but it's certainly not a good day. He wasn't picked up or helped out by, the best supporting cast that any number 1 overall pick has ever seen in the world of the NFL. He wasn't helped out by these guys, right? And it just kind of it's killing me here. Like, that's kind of what you need early on, is your guys to just make the plays that are there and then make a couple plays that aren't. That would be useful as well. I just think overall, given how he played against Minnesota a few weeks ago, that this is a little bit of a step back. I know it's on the road, but the elements are controlled. Just feels like a little bit of a disappointment to me.
Yeah, 100%. He has been better than he's shown. Like you said, the drops hurt him. The Rome drop at the end zone. That was just like beautiful pass, beautiful read. I think he changed the play pre-snap and he kind of set that up, and you got to come down with that catch. The other scramble he had, where he kind of went all over the place and it went off Keenan's hands. Looked like that was going to Rome Odunze. And then look, Keenan Allen's taking a lot of flack online over that. Look, he deserves flack for dropping things. That was him trying to make a play. He didn't know Rome was behind him. So it's like, just like, it makes no sense to me that Keenan has dropped as much as he's done. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I don't think he's dropped like this in his career. I don't know what's going on. There was the one play where it looked like Keenan kind of settled down. Caleb thought he was going to kind of keep going. It was zone, it looked like. So he was right to settle down, but just again, they were just off a little bit. Keenan thought he was settled a little further to the middle. Keenan settled where he did. These things get ironed out with more reps. But man, it's what, week 15, and we're still seeing these same issues. And yeah, it's coaching, but it's also Caleb. Caleb's got to be a little better with some of these throws.
You know how you have a category in your sack watch of sacks happen? The one where Keenan comes back to the ball and breaks up what looked like it might have been a touchdown to Rome. That's a shit happens, right? Yeah. Like that to me, like it's that sucks. That happens though. I'm I'm disappointed he didn't catch it. That's still a ball that he should probably catch, just because he's Keenan Allen and like he's really good at football, and it just kind of crazy how many drops he's had this year. I think that, from a percentage standpoint, I think it's way higher than what he's known for as certainly a sure-handed receiver. So I don't know, man. Like the records aren't going to be broken. The rookie records are already broken. The franchise records aren't going to be broken at this point. And he's going to settle in with, like, I think, a pretty respectable line overall. But you go back and you look at it, and there's just not enough consistency. And I think we'll just use that to move into caught up in a numbers game. I'm not very creative today on the stats because there's so many negative stats out there. And I just didn't want to go there to pile on, because I felt like I already have done some yelling, and I just didn't want to like pile on a little bit more. And so I wanted to like update the stat that we've been talking about, which is the number of consecutive attempts without an interception. He certainly tried to throw one,
Yes.
but again, even a guy that possibly could be a Hall of Famer in Harrison Smith, like, I mean, he's a very good football player, couldn't handle it. That's why he plays defense, right? So he's, the streak continues. He's at 286 consecutive attempts. And I don't know that I have a full top 10 list. There's not like an easy search query to find this, but I have cobbled this together over multiple articles. And he's nearing top 10 all time in this category. Okay. Which seems crazy. And we confirmed that he's the franchise record holder. He now has the most consecutive attempts. Last game, he broke that from the franchise record. Or maybe he already had it. We don't know. I mean, we've watched a lot of Bears football. I can't remember like 3-game stretch where a quarterback didn't throw a touchdown, right? So he probably broke it a long time ago, and no one ever thought to look at it, right? Interception. So again, just to recap, Rodgers has the record at 402. Brady has 399. Goff has 383. Brady again at 358. Herbert's streak broke.
Just ended, yeah.
So he ends it at 357. Derek Carr 332. Alex Smith 312. Bernie Kosar back in 1990 with 308, and then Drew Brees at 305. Those are some big quarterback names, by the way, right? And now Caleb Williams at 286. So, again, if he could possibly get past a depleted Lions defense, which, maybe, right? And you put another 30, 35 attempts on there, all of a sudden he's now on that top 10 list for sure, right? So he's close. He's knocking on the door here of something that I think is pretty cool. Now, is this like, do you take the rest of the result with this? Obviously not, right? Like, they haven't won a game during this streak, yet started in the Jacksonville game. We've talked about the idea of being in the 3-1-2 club, the Chicago area code club, which is, take more chances, force the ball, which is going to, create more explosive plays, more touchdown passes. And yes, you're going to turn the ball over a little more. We both like that approach. We think that he's got that in him. He's this natural playmaker. Let him make some mistakes, figure out what he can get away with, what he can't, and that should open more and more up. But he's on the streak, man. The stat is what it is. And so we're going to keep tracking it. We're going to show it. And I think it is, if nothing else, at least a positive to this season for Caleb Williams.
This should have been the year he took chances, right? As a rookie. That's the year when you try and work things out and see what you can get away with. I don't think he's throwing as many passes as he probably should, where he thinks something's there, which is one reason why he's taking some sacks. I'd rather see him kind of just let it loose sometimes. If you have your guy, you like the one-on-one matchup, if you like roam one-on-one down the sideline, let it rip. See what happens. Trust your guy to make a play. DJ Moore, same way. Keenan Allen, I know he said some drops here, but sometimes you got to just chuck up and see what happens. And then he always talks about something he sees on a defense, how he'll put that in the back of his mind. Okay, I'll know next time I see this, I can't do this, or I can do this. And that's what comes along with being a young quarterback is, okay, the next time I see this coverage, my arms, I can't fit it in that spot. He'll know that. So I want to see him take more chances these next 3 weeks. I think the interception list streak is awesome, but if he grows by throwing a couple picks, I think that's a better option.
Yeah. Again, I share this type of information because it's
interesting.
it's interesting and
Yes.
it's factual and like why not? Like, I mean, those are some pretty big names,
Yeah.
right? Like those are some pretty big names on that list. And why not celebrate it a little bit? And again, I know I don't like the approach, but it's also showing that he was willing to do that. You know, this guy that has this label of, oh, he's just a guy that is a, you know, he's going to just freelance and he, you know, he doesn't take the care of the ball. And I'm like, well, he took that coaching note to heart and he did those things, right? So you get an actual offensive coordinator who's worth his salt, you know, a head coach who's an offensive play caller, hopefully, right? Ben Johnson, who comes in and pairs with him. And to me, Caleb is showing a willingness to be coached. He
Yeah.
wants to be coached. He's willing to listen. Let's just hope that they're saying the right things to him, right? Let's hope they're not coming in and saying, we want you to be part of the 200 club. We want you to be part of the 312. Like, we want you to be you. We want you to let it rip. And because you can fit in some of these passes that very few other quarterbacks can. So let's let you be you and go get it.
You know, you made a good point there. You said he wants to be coached. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one thing with the greats. They all want to be coached hard. You know, they all want to be pushed. They want to be pushed to their max. They want to be pushed to their limits. And Caleb, you know, it's early on, obviously in his career, but you know, everything we've heard him say, you know, the stuff that he's done on the field, it looks like he's a guy that wants to be pushed. That's one of the reasons why Shane Waldron kind of didn't work out. It was kind of lax. And even the veterans kind of said that it wasn't exactly what the environment they wanted to have there. Players want to be pushed. You know, they want to be made to be the best of their ability. And Caleb has some lofty goals that he wants to reach here. And he's not going to get it with a guy like Shane Waldron, who now in hindsight realized was kind of like, you know, just limp there. But Ben Johnson or some of these other, you know, these aggressive, you know, leader of men. That's what he wants. He wants someone that's going to get in his face and kind of, you know, coach him up hard and coach him to be the best of his ability.
One more thought before I get your number, because we're going to talk about coaches. We're going to keep talking about it. I know some people don't want that, but like this is the biggest decision that is facing the Bears franchise since they hired Mike Ditka. Like, I mean, this is it, man. Like this is a big effing deal, right? And you know, I'm seeing a lot of people lining up behind a Mike Vrabel type, and Mike Vrabel is what Matt Eberflus was. That they wanted Matt Eberflus to be, essentially, right? Like a more of a defensive minded guy. You know, I'm sure Eberflus is probably a better defensive play caller. I mean, you know, but he came in trying to be the CEO type, right? So that's what some people really want. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, because I think Mike Vrabel's a good football coach and I think that he can be successful in certain situations. I just don't see how you would want that for Caleb Williams going into year 2. Like, some of the best quarterbacks have coaches that are offensive minded with them early in their career to bring them along. And you just can't. We had a ceiling of what Eberflus could bring in for an offensive coordinator, and we you know, we talked about it. Yes, they chose wrong, but like, Waldron had the best resume at the time. Like, everybody kind of said, hey, this is the best that they could possibly have hoped for, but it was still a ceiling. If they would have been able to go out into the marketplace and for a new head coach, then they would have had different offensive play callers that would have wanted the head coaching job to upgrade, right? So you have this unique opportunity to go out and find the best possible offensive mind to pair with the talent that you drafted number 1 overall. Put everything in that basket. And then there are always talented defensive coordinators that are floating around out there. Sometimes they, you know, Vic Fangio, he gets an opportunity. Now he's back being a defensive coordinator, right? There are a lot of talented defensive coordinators that you can get paired up. Robert Saleh is out there. He's not going to get another head coaching job next year. Maybe Robert Saleh could be the defensive coordinator. He's a good defensive coordinator, right? Get the offense figured out. It's 2024. It's going to be 2025. It is an offensive league. Pair him with your quarterback. Now, 10 years down the line, maybe like you fall into a slump and you know, that guy leaves but Caleb's established and ready to go and can run his own offense, then hire a different guy, hire the defensive, like, it doesn't, but right now, offensive guy.
Same.
That's it. That's the challenge. Sometimes it's that obvious. That's the challenge. Go out and get that guy.
Same, 100%.
What's your number?
My number is I'm going more big picture this week. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of fun numbers in the game. My number this week is $82 million. And that is the cap space the Bears have in 2025, which I believe is fifth most. Okay. Which leads me to a couple questions. You know, what the hell has Ryan Poles been doing with all this money? Why is he sitting on all this cash? You could have signed some free agents last offseason, structured it to where you had some room pushing out here, but $82 million. So I looked at their free agents. There's not a lot of free agents that are going to want to resign. Keenan Allen maybe coming back. I don't think so. Tevin Jenkins. I don't know. That's pretty much it. Everyone else that's a free agent are, you know, Coleman Shelton type players. They're all Darrell Taylor type players. Not going to command big money. You know, they're going to a few million here, a few million there. But whoever the GM is, whether it's Ryan Poles or they decide to make a move, they're going to have $82 million in cap space. Not a lot of guys to re-sign, which is why I said, you know, it's not another rebuild coming, but the way the roster is set and structured, they have a chance to really, really change things quickly here. And look, $82 million goes pretty quick. Like this is NFL dollars we're talking about. You sign 2 or 3 premier guys. That's pretty much your chunk. But this team needs to revamp the lines, right? Both sides of the line, they have to put some money in. It has to happen. Whether it's Ryan Poles or whoever it is, you know, you've got to address guard, maybe tackle, center for sure, you know. And look, the draft is one option, obviously, but free agency comes first. You know, I think you got to do both, but you cannot go into the season kind of like they did a couple years ago where you had to draft a starting right tackle. That cannot be your what happens this offseason. Fill your holes with competent to good or elite offensive linemen. And then if the draft falls and a center sitting there for you, take them. If a guard's sitting there for you, take them. You got to do both. You need depth and you need veteran quality starters that are going to actually come in and make a difference.
Yeah, no excuse if it's Ryan Poles or if it's anybody else in that GM spot has to spend that money and spend it up front. You can't be nibbling at the edges anymore. You can't be like, oh, I think we got this figured out with this. You know, one of these two guys will take over. No, go spend some premium money. And if you get a couple premium players, that makes those other players better.
Yes.
Right. Like that. It's one of those things where, hey, you can hide a guy if you've got 2 premier guys on either side of them. Right. So it has to happen. Even if you are being kind and are giving Ryan Poles and this team an excuse, which I would say less than 1% of the fan base is at this point, giving him an excuse up front on the offensive line. There's no way that you could do that next year. Like, this is obviously the only thing that is important. Even if you at the sacrifice of the defensive line next year, if you put everything in the offensive line, that's fine. Like, you have to do it. That you have to just stuff that basket. So, all right, before the break, real quick, it's not real quick, but real quick, our message from Underdog Fantasy.
Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won. Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. You think Caleb Williams will rack up higher than 200 passing yards next week against the Lions? Maybe DJ Moore will get higher than 60 yards receiving. You can cook up some entries for a shot to win real cash prizes all season long. Underdog has some fun games like Champions and Red Zone Rush, which is a game you won't find anywhere else. Just simply pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping right for yes, left for no. Plus, your entry gets a 51% profit boost. Just sign up and deposit now using our promo code CITY, CITY, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Underdog is fun and simple. And this week, the Bears have the injury-depleted Lions. That defense is in shambles. They put, 2 or 3 more guys on IR today. They're already without Hutchinson. So maybe Caleb Williams and the Bears offense can get going a little bit for some higher stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money by picking higher or lower on wherever you think there. Rushing yards, passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, so many more options. Download the app today and use promo code again, City, $1,000 bonus cash instantly. It's that easy. Download the app, promo code City, $1,000 right now. Every player, every touchdown, just like higher or lower on Underdog. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned when you play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona's 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, you got that 24/7 Hope line, 877-8-HOPE-NY, or you can text HOPE-NY to 467369.
You did it.
Got
Real quick. On the other side of the break, 3 Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester. Let's get into this thing. 3 Bears, hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. I had an impossible time with the hot bowl of porridge. And so
what do you got? Let's hear what you got first.
All right, mine is tongue in cheek. I'm giving the hot bowl of porridge to my wife.
Oh man.
Because she came out and watched the first 5 minutes of the game with me. And so the Vikings run out of the tunnel in those all white uniforms. And she says, "What is this? High school uniforms? These are the most boring things I've ever seen in my life." And I thought, that is an amazing, amazing take, because I know how much Lester hates the idea of the polar bear look that Bears fans want for
I
the
like
white
the
helmet
idea of the look
and the white and white.
Yeah, I hate the name. I like the look.
Did the Vikings have a specific name for this white ensemble that they had? Like they called it like the I don't know,
Winter Wonderland.
Something stupid like that.
Yeah.
So I thought I didn't even ask her what she thought of the uniforms. I nothing, no prompt. They just came out and she trashed them. And I thought Lester's gonna like that. So I'm giving her the hot bowl of porridge.
Now that was, I'm watching the game right now, I'm going through the pictures on our site because I have to pick pictures for each article, and my mind keeps thinking it's the Colts because it's all white on white, the white helmet, and like I see it, I'm like, that's not this game. I'm like, yeah, it is this game. That's the Vikings all white here. It was just I think it's neat. I think look, I'd be fine with the Bears going all white. I just cannot get on board with calling it polar bears. Chicago Bears are not polar bears. They are a brown bear, grizzly bear. They are not a polar bear. We've had a discussion online with our guy Mason, and I'm just not about the polar bear. Call it something else, and I'm down for
it. You do this long enough, and we all have little things that we care about, that maybe care about too much or care about more than others. This for you, I'm so glad we found it. Yeah. I'm so glad we found the thing that irritates you that like doesn't bother me at all. And so I like to poke you with it. I like to poke the bear about it, but the idea of the all whites being called polar bear, I just had to get it on the air because
I knew it was coming at one point. Yeah.
Okay, for you, did you find an actual Bears player or coach that you would give a hot bowl of porridge to?
I did, and I'm going back to our Trent tribute. The 2 names I had was Ford and Walker. Like I said, Ford kind of came out of blue.
All right,
no one expected that performance out of him, right? And he was pretty good. And then Walker, like I said, he tied his career high with those 4 quarterback hits, something he's only done once in his career. So in the spirit of the hot bowl, both those guys kind of exceeded my expectations. So I had a one for each of them.
All right, that's fine. I try not to double dip, but yeah, that is what it is.
I wasn't sure which way you're going, so that's why I had 2 up top, and then I figure I'll use my other one for down here.
It makes sense.
Fine. It's fine.
That makes sense. It's tough.
It's
tough.
Yeah.
And, the whole point of the show is to be balanced.
Yeah.
And it's an 8-game losing streak, and they got blown out on national television. Like, what are we supposed to do, guys? Like, we're fighting the concept of the show here.
Yeah.
All right, flip it around. Cold bowl porridge, no shortage here. What do you got?
I've talked about him a little bit here. during the streak, and it's Montez Sweat again, right?
Okay.
2 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. He had a sack negated because he was offsides. He had a roughing the passer penalty. So I talked about cap space earlier, right? This year, Montez Sweat has the 5th highest cap hit of any edge rusher in the NFL. You know, Max Crosby, TJ Watt, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, right? That's the company he's in. That's not the production he's giving. You know, you even heard Troy Aikman on the game last night talk about how the Bears don't have that elite edge rusher. Well, they're paying one. You know what I mean? And look, I like Sweat. He does other things besides get after the quarterback. It's a passing league. You've got to get after the quarterback. And if that's the guy you're paying a ton of money to, it's not happening. You know, he has 4.5 sacks this year. Look, I know sacks is not the end all be all, but that ranks 71st in the NFL. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he would be an amazing DE2, right? Like, I mean, amazing. If that's your second best defensive end, like, you are cooking. As your one, I think it's still good, but he's underperforming, right? Like that's the problem. And again, sacks aren't be all end all. He's fighting some injuries, whatever, but he's not finishing when the opportunities are there. Had another one that slipped out of his hand this week, and just not impacting the game, but being paid like an impact player. And I think Bill Zimmerman was talking about this last week on his show, the number of blue chips and red chips and things like that. And Montez Sweat's a red chip player. He's not always playing like it, but he's a red chip player. That's a good thing to have. But you're paying him. We talked about this. You paid full sticker price. Like this was, the car on the lot, and you say, I'll take that one. And you don't negotiate price. You pay the full sticker price. That's what the Bears paid for that. And, I'm not going to go Bill Barnwell and say like, well, there were other players that you could get that were more productive. I like Bill Barnwell a lot. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Barnwell came out and basically said, here are the, I'm cherry picking the 3 or 4 defensive ends that are having better seasons than Montez Sweat, according to the statistics. And it's like, well, sure. Those guys are playing in better defenses, more aggressive defense. Like that's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison, but yes, we get your point, Bill. Barnwell, not Zimmerman, just two Bills in that rant. All right. I've got a lot of directions here. One, we talked about a little bit, but Keenan Allen deserves a cold bowl here. Like that's a bad game from him. I'm not happy with what Keenan Allen has been able to do just from a drop ball standpoint. I think he just needs to be called out when that happens. That was a bad game. 2, Eric Washington. I didn't have any expectations, but you have somehow disappointed me. 38 and 30 points the last 2 weeks. Just the number of 3rd and longs and you can't get off the field. I mean, this is back to the Allen Williams days where, we're like, what is this? What defense are we doing here? And so I don't know what Flus built, but apparently Flus built a defense that only he knew how to read the code to. And now he's gone. And so I guess we're going to have to deal with this. I mean, Detroit might not win the Super Bowl because, they have everybody on their defense is hurt, but they're a Super Bowl caliber offense and they can score with anybody. They might put up 900 points on Sunday. I have no idea. I don't know what the limit is, right? Like they might put up 70 points on this Bears defense if this is how they're going to play. It's bad. So he deserves a cold bowl. Again, I didn't have any expectations for it, and he has disappointed me. So I don't know how that's possible. And then I think we have to talk a little bit more about Thomas Brown and this offensive game plan, and particularly the lack of play action, the plan for using Karan Amagaji and not giving him help, like just the lack of the toss sweep we haven't talked about it. The toss sweep on 4th down to Karan Amagaji's side on an early 4th and 1. I don't mind going for it on 4th down. I love the aggressiveness. Go for it. But you're not that successful running the football, and you're going to run that like that feels very high school to me. Toss sweep.
Both of those DeAndre Swift 4th down fails.
Yeah.
When he ran the ball and he got to a certain point, it was like he hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
because he's not a powerful runner. That's not
That's
his
not
game.
his game.
Yeah, that's not his game.
So is that really what you want to do? Like the Lions run, and I know Dave Montgomery just got hurt and he's out for the year, but the Lions run with David Montgomery on a 4th and 1 because Dave Montgomery can get you 2 yards. That's what Dave Montgomery can absolutely do. He's going to churn. He's going to get you that extra yard, right? That's not Swift's game. Now you don't have Roshan Johnson available to you. I don't care. Then don't run those plays.
Yeah.
Like put the ball in Caleb's. Caleb is your playmaker, and run a play where he can get the ball to what should be a sure-handed Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, who is built like a running back, Cole Kmet, who's a tight end that can move the sticks. Like put the ball in Caleb's hand. But no, you run a toss sweep to DeAndre Swift and you run an inside run to DeAndre Swift. Again, with this offensive line that has been able to establish the run all year. So what is this plan? What are you doing? Don't tell me it's too much pressure or like whatever. Like this was just a bad plan. That's not understanding your personnel. And we're in week 15.
Yeah.
Like you should know what DeAndre Swift can and can't do at this point. So why is that the play that comes to your mind? You need a yard. So we're going to recall a play that will get us a yard. That's Flus thinking. Flus isn't here anymore. Call a play that you know can work and can get you 8 yards, right? Like that they can just move the sticks. That offensive game plan and the lack of understanding who was on the field and what you could do with it. Did we even mention Doug Kramer yet? I got to give Doug Kramer a bowl too. You're not going to, how many reps have you had at fullback this year that now you're so nonchalant that you don't think that you have to check in? He knows he has to check in. I'm not putting that on coaching. I'm putting that on Doug Kramer. Like, give me a break. They showed that replay of him running out. He doesn't even think about looking at the refs. That's the first thing you should do. You're fat. No offense, not saying like as an insult. You're a big guy playing offensive line in the NFL. You're running on the field and you're not lining up on the line. That you just need showing everybody. Hey, I'm eligible.
Look at me.
Come on, man.
I'm a fullback today. Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. Either that or put on a 40 number.
Yeah.
But get out of here with that. So I had a slew of options for Cold Bowl, but they just keep coming back to just shocker, Lester. The backup coaches were not better than the starting coaches. I think is what I'm getting to.
It sucked because last week, Thomas Brown's first week, they only got flagged twice, right? No pre-snap penalties. You're like, oh, okay. Maybe he got that part of the Eberflus problem solved.
Karana Magaji said, hold my beer.
Yeah, this week they're right back at it. I think they got flagged, 7 or 8 times, almost 100 yards in penalties. Sweat got hit with a couple. Gazi got hit with 4. It's just, come on. It's just, I don't know. Something's going to change, and it's not going to happen until the season's over, and we're doing this whole hamster wheel again, looking at coaching options.
Just
a lot of cold bowls you gave out tonight.
Way too many. I know it's not balanced, but I had to unload. We didn't cover it in the rest of the show, so I can't believe I waited that long to talk about Doug Kramer. All right. Just right. What do you got?
DJ Moore, right?
Okay.
8 targets, 8 catches. The yards are a little low, only 46 receiving yards. 3 rushes, 24 yards. Okay, we talk about Thomas Brown. Game plan bad. This part of his game plan I liked. Scheming up touches for one of your playmakers, right? A couple sweeps, he was getting like a straight handoff, like he was a tailback now, like the Debo move, right? With San Fran. So it was kind of nice to see that happen. Again, not a lot of yards, but this is your guy, right? Scheme him some touches, this is who he has to be. He has to be a part of your offense. We talked last year, run the passing game through DJ Moore. I don't see why that should have stopped. I know you got more talent around here, but he still is the guy that, should be more. He should be the guy that defenses are worried about in the passing game.
I thought it was hilarious that they had, they used some orbit motion with him. Like they're having him run around. And then like the next play, Keenan Allen was doing the orbit, and I'm like, no.
Get him
Like,
out of there.
he was like, oh yeah, I like this. Oh yeah, use a little orbit motion. Cool. DJ Moore orbit. And then it was like 13. No. Put him. No. Put him in the slot. Put him, it's funny. Like, they're not interchangeable pieces. This kind of goes back to, do you know who's on the field? Do you know what they're good at? Just use them what they're good at. You're
Know
not
your
fooling
personnel.
anybody.
That's a Stacey King thing.
I was boring. Put Darnell Wright.
Okay.
I know he gave up the sack, but I thought he played pretty well otherwise. So I'm boring. I just did this one last week and this week have been particularly rough in trying to find silver linings. And I just, in general, I just have not been impressed by most of this team. Obviously.
That sack he gave up, right, against Turner. I thought that was a fantastic move by him. I mean, he dipped and got so low. It's almost like, I don't know if did you wrestle in high school?
No.
So like when you're wrestling and you shoot in and you kind of drag your knee. I mean, he got so low. He was so low and he got underneath Darnell right there. That was just a really nice move. I'm not sure Wright was expecting that because the way he was burned so bad, but we talk about how players have to take things and put in their back of their mind and be ready for them. That's a move that Wright, we hope, will be ready for in the future, because that was a nice move. I mean, and Turner's been struggling all year. He hasn't gotten on the field much, but he showed why he was a first-round pick on that one play right there.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I think I have everything in my notes. The only thing that I would say was, and I know I kind of did this last week, but first and goal at the 1. You have a touchdown run that's called back because Doug Kramer doesn't notify that he's eligible. You get the 5 yards back. Now it's 2nd and 1. Then you get a holding penalty on your rookie left tackle from Yale that should not have been in the football game. So now it's 2nd and 11. Caleb skies one to Roma Dunze, like just not an accurate ball. And then Keenan Allen basically breaks up a pass to Roma Dunze that looked like it was probably going to score. And you get 3 points instead of 7. 7 points off the board. You get a field goal instead. I'm just not sure. That, I think, might be the sequence that you just play and say, here was the Bears season.
Yeah.
And you just play that sequence. It just felt like everything. It had everything, right? It's the Stefan skit from SNL. Like this play says this series had everything. And I don't know, man. Like this thing, you could not have convinced me that this was what was going to happen 2 months ago. No. Coming out of the bye. Like, this is so insane that it has fallen apart and broken up into such small pieces. Like, this is just destroyed into smithereens. Like, this is it's not quite believable to me.
Same. I mean, yeah, I'm right there with you. It's like, again, we talked about offseason. We thought we had expectations. As the season went on, we're like, okay, they're going through some growing pains. They'll figure it out. We weren't happy with Waldron's offense early, but we're like, okay, we're starting to see a little bit of life here. And then that Hail Mary, it just, I mean, how can a team be broken by one thing? Okay, that tells you there was something there. It wasn't just this one play. There was something bubbling up in that locker room, in this great locker room that, culture hits, blah, blah, blah. Something was bubbling. If that one thing could really break them that bad, and then this team wasn't what we thought it was, obviously.
Good place to end it. We will be back here next Monday, back on our normal time. And then again, we'll be back on the following Thursday to do the Seahawks game. We're doing the immediate post game. So if you want to see two angry people, you should tune in with us, because I am not known for being very rational right after a game. So we will see how this format works doing the direct post game, but we are stepping in for that. And then we will finish it out in the new year against the Packers. But we are closing in on finishing out yet another season of Bear and Balanced. We hope that we have tried to keep this somewhat balanced. And we are going to stick around just for a few minutes with the YouTube crowd. For those of you just listening on the podcast, thanks for listening. Bear down. What do you got?
So there's no singing happening. Axel,
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I figured I'd throw it up, see what happens here.
Absolutely not. Although I'm feeling a little tipsy, so I could, but no one wants that.
Yeah. Robert Gangas here says, I don't think you guys agree with me. I felt the Bears could have gotten Curran as a UDFA. Poles' weakness is falling in love with players without justification. Second part of that is true. I think Poles falls in love with his guys. The first part, though, I think is fall. I do think it may have been a little early for him to go, but all the mocks I saw, a lot of the projections had him in that late 3, early 4 range because of the tools, right? Because of what he had there, his athleticism. So, but still, it is the second part's true though. He definitely has his guys that he kind of, we saw with Velas, right? He kind of fell in love with Velas.
I think a lot of GMs have that.
Yeah.
He had a draftable grade, and it was remember, this was a shallow draft. We can't do the revisionist history thing. I mean, it happens so much with the Taylor pick last week. People are talking about that. Everyone, absolutely everyone, talked about this being a shallow draft, and that 4th rounders were basically like a 6th rounder in a normal year. We just can't lose sight of the context when we talk about these things.
Yeah. Caleb looked horrible and defeated by the end of the game. Did you see that the body language police all over social media today?
Oh man.
Jeez,
I love body language talk.
That is the stupidest shit. I'm like, what are we doing here? He had literally just taken that huge hit in the air, letting the ball go. That was a body weight thing. No flag was called, but he was popped. He was hit hard. He was in pain on the sideline. Then you got Acho on his whatever ESPN show he's on here, running his mouth, saying how that's unacceptable, his body language. The dude was in pain, trying to stretch out his ribs, laying down, trying to get feeling back. He was out of breath. And this dumbass is on his show saying that it's a body language thing, that he's showing he's not into the game. I just, come on. What? It's stupid.
I mean, it's Emmanuel Acho is a performative take artist.
Yes.
Never good at it, but that's what he is, right? And I have always hated those shows, but those shows are very popular for a reason, and it's because it generates response. Whether it doesn't matter if it's I love this or I hate that. He knows that it's gonna get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
It's gonna get people defending it and saying what you just said, right? Like, he just took a hit. Like, what are you talking about? There's nothing here. Or people are gonna be like, see, I told you this was a red flag. This is why I didn't like him coming out of USC, is because he's soft and he's this. Like, all it is baiting, and it gets engagement. So yeah, I saw it. I hate it. I didn't like it when it was Cutler.
Yeah.
As long as the people around him like to play with him, play for him, play alongside him, who cares? Like, you're not in that huddle. So as long as he can lead the team, like, and I didn't interpret it the way that Acho is, obviously. Like, I interpret it like you did. But even if he was having body language that wasn't making Bears fans happy, who cares? As long as the people around him are with him. Man, Justin Fields' body language sucked a lot, by the way, right? But who cares? Like, everybody was with him.
Chris Armstrong, bring me Ray Agnew as GM and Ben Johnson as head coach. Chris is very out on Poles. She has been pretty much this season. I'm still on the fence. I think there's a good case to be made that he needs to go. Ray Agnew, of course, is the assistant GM with the Detroit Lions. Ben Johnson has been vocal about saying he wants to go to an organization that has a good structure in place, good stability. Ryan Poles is going into, we believe, will be his lame duck season next year. So Kevin Warren's either going to have to extend him and add some more money to his deal and more years, or make a move. And I think to make a move may be the way to go.
I said on Twitter, if you give me Ben Johnson, I'll take Spiro Agnew as my GM. I don't care. Like, to me, I think GM's important, all that stuff. Like, your front office is important. Don't get me wrong. This is such a coaches league.
Yeah.
This is a coaches and quarterbacks league. It just is. Like, if you split up the pie of like what influences teams most, the two biggest slices are head coach and quarterback.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you can get those two things right, you're going to be competitive every single year. So if you get me Ben Johnson, who I think is proven to be a really good play caller in this league for multiple years now, and he's kind of doing his own thing. It's like we've talked about. It's not just a Shanahan disciple and whatever. Like, not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, Sean McVay's a Shanahan disciple and he's got his own spin on it, but like, seems to be his own thing. And he seems to be putting his player, understanding his personnel, putting his players in a position, using them correctly, right? That's what I really admire. That's what I've always liked about any offensive coordinator that designs and creates plays, understanding who he has on the field and using their abilities. Shanahan does a great job with like Debo. Watch how he uses Debo, right? Like, he understands what he is. He puts him in a position to do that, right? So you get me him, I'll take Ray Agnew. I'll take whoever he wants, right? So that's where I'm coming from. If it's a package deal, okay. Sorry, Ryan. Thanks for your service. Hope you had fun.
The more I think about it, like what is Ryan Poles? Because there's obviously a rift, right? Something's going on. We've seen a lot of these reports coming out now. Those aren't just by accident. Sometimes these are kind of there and kind of put out, or they hear things they can't really say at the time moment.
Yeah.
Now here is the time to say it. So it's like something's there. We saw the press conference. Obviously, there's something going on there. If I'm Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles has to come to me and sell me on why he gets to stay, there's not a lot he can really sell me on. You know what I mean? It's especially if he really did double down and want Flus back.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
To me, that's damning in its own right. But then there's like other issues, some of the trades, some of the contracts, some of the free agency, some of the draft picks,
There's enough.
He gets credit for some of the wins, but the losses are stacking up there in that.
There's more than enough on the resume to give Ryan Poles his walking papers, right? Like that. Like, absolutely. It's not like you're firing a guy where you're like, oh, whoa, what's this? Right. There's more than enough. And there's some things that we just don't know where the blame goes. And I have been consistent in that I think that it's more George that probably owns some of the blame. But like, if really is Poles on some of this stuff, out, right? Like, absolutely no problem. But for me, it really does come back to, you got to get this coaching right. And if Kevin Warren, who might be a killer, right? If he sees this and it's like, here's my opportunity to get the guy, and the guy just spoke through the media saying, I need stability. People are like, well, then he'll never come to the Bears because there's not stability. If he just means, hey, I want to come with my own GM, that might be what he's saying, right? Yeah. So, okay, like, that's what we want. We're gonna bring you. And Mike Vrabel wants the same thing for you Vrabel heads out there too, right? Yeah. He wants to own things too. So, and that's not uncommon, right? Like that, like guy like Shanahan, when he got the job, like that, Lynch kind of works for Shanahan, not the other way around. So
yeah, that was definitely a package deal, and we saw it in New York. It didn't work out for the Giants, but that was a similar package deal there. And
right,
yeah, it's a and then there is a Warren Agnew connection. They crossed paths before. So I mean, if that's the way to go, and I have loved the Lions drafts the last 2 years. I know some of the picks are very unconventional, running back and linebacker early, but for what Dan Campbell wants, for the style, the grit that he wants to do, those picks made sense for that team. And now we're seeing this team in a really good place here, still a contender, even though they got a lot of injuries.
Ton of injuries.
One more. Axel.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Okay.
Maybe we do something at camp and then everybody can sing together, but it's not just going to be me, because that's not a good idea.
Okay, let's get the hell out of here. It's late.
But I appreciate it. I appreciate the attempt, the double attempt. It was good. Yeah, appreciate all the very active comment section tonight. Appreciate it, and appreciate the donation, the gift Axel. I actually do think that this works. This is just the last word type recipe, equal parts. So again, yellow chartreuse is what I used to try to balance it out a little bit. Made gin the base with lemon. I think it worked. So go for it. And see if that works for you. And it was better than shooting it. I will tell you that. That's not a very enjoyable thing to just take a shot of. Not Malort, but not exactly like something you want to. I wouldn't want to repeat that in my life very often. So, all right, we'll get out of here. Thanks everybody for the time. Appreciate it.